Yes, I'm about to break it down to you now. So no touch, no talk, no eye contact, right? In the beginning, directly to her, right? Now, obviously, you guys are going to be speaking to me, right? But you just kind of act like she doesn't exist, right? Because she's going to be excited, right? And there's nothing wrong with her being excited, right? So we're not going to punish her for being excited. But what she has to understand is that excitement doesn't get her what she wants. Calmness gets her what she wants, right? Because the psychology behind that is if you guys give her what she wants when she's excited, then in her brain, she thinks that if I start doing all the excited stuff, you're going to keep giving me what I want. So we have to do the total opposite, right? We have to say, no, when you're calm, then you get love and affection. Then you get treats and all of the stuff that you normally give her, right? So that way it stops her from doing a lot of the behaviors that you guys don't want her to do, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. So like I said, in the beginning, we talk normal, right? Any questions you have, obviously you can ask. I'm going to be explaining everything that I'm doing it as I'm doing it, but just kind of act like she doesn't even exist, right? And then once she gets to the point where I see that she's kind of ready to be, for you guys to interact with her, I'll let you know. Yep. Okay. So let me grab her out, and then yeah, you just kind of chill. Yeah, you can just kind of chill here. We're gonna work our way into the house because again, she's probably gonna be excited once she recognizes you guys and recognizes that she's home. But you're gonna see me use some of the techniques that you saw in the video to get her to calm down before we go into the house. Okay. All right. Yes, sir. Let me grab her. All right, Miss Una. I know, Mama. I know. Come on. Come on. Good girl. Yes. That's a good girl. Come on. Let's put the leash on. Okay. Let's go, Mama. Good girl. Yes. Good girl. Okay. All right, Miss Una, baby. Come on. Good girl. So we're gonna see if she uses the bathroom, if she pees or something, because sometimes when you, especially with puppies, new situations, like I said, she doesn't really like being in the car. So she threw up in the car, so she might be a little nervous, but you can see she's getting excited. She recognizes that you're there, which is a good thing. That's pretty normal. Hey, Una, no. Una, come, come. Come, yes, good girl. That's a good girl. Yes. All right. So basically, right now, what I am doing with her is redirecting her brain back to me, right? Now, this is important, and what this simulates is when you guys are on the walk, she sees another dog, she sees a strange person, right? Because of her defensive nature, which comes out of insecurity, right? So when she sees something that she's unsure about, her fear meter goes up and she barks, right? Which is not necessarily a bad thing because it's not bad that a dog warns you of possible danger, right? But the thing that we want to make sure with her is that we can cut it on and cut it off, right? So if she sees something that she's unsure about, right? Now you guys can assess the situation and say, hey, Una, it's okay. Come back to me. You don't have to bark anymore. As opposed to, like she keeps going and going and going, right? And normally in those situations, what we do, right? Because I want to say it's a natural human instinct to comfort when people are unsure about things. But because dogs don't necessarily work like that, we put too much human empathy on dogs. And what that does, that actually makes the behavior worse, right? So, Una, Una, come. So real quick, and every so often I'll get I'll get distracted by what she's doing now, and then I'll go back to what I was talking about. But this is a perfect example, right? So the technique that I'm going to use right now is what I call the assertive tap on the shoulder, right? And basically what this means, right? As you can see, she's excited to get to you guys, right? Which again, we knew that was going to happen. It happens every single time I bring a dog home, right? So now you see I'm calling her name. She's not responding, right? Which again is normal when you're super excited about something or when you're focused, when you're hyper focused on something. The equivalent for humans would be is, let's say you're working on a computer and she's calling you and you're so focused on what you're doing on the computer, you don't hear her calling you, right? It's not that you're ignoring her on purpose. It's just that all of your energy is going into what you're doing on the computer. So then she finally gets close enough and taps you on the shoulder and say, hey, I'm calling you. And you snap out of it like, oh, I'm sorry. I was just focused on what I was doing, right? So the assertive tap on the shoulder is the exact same thing with her. She's hyper focused on getting to you guys. So all I'm going to ask her to do without using too much vocal or verbal communication, right? Because she's in an elevated state of mind, vocal or verbal communication doesn't really work. And typically what we do, we get louder, which means we're getting frustrated, right? Or we're getting agitated, which actually makes the situation worse because now she feels that energy and she's already an insecure dog, right? So when you have dogs that already have insecurity issues and then you add frustration and agitation into the equation, that makes them even more insecure and fearful, right? So now what we have to do is switch to another form of communication, which is tactile, right? And tactile is just touch, right? Any form of touch. So even though I'm not touching her with my body, I'm still touching with the leash, right? So the tap on the shoulder is literally a Una, yes, good girl. And you see she looks, I reward that, right? Because what I'm saying to her is, thank you for giving me your attention because I'm calling you, right? So now I have to reward her for doing the thing that I asked her to do, right? So even though she didn't necessarily respond to the verbal, right? I understand why, because she's in an elevated state of excitement. So now I have to elevate how I communicate to her. So again, notice I tap Una, Una. Yes, good girl, right? So it's a tap and I call her name because what I want her to do is associate that tap with her name because then eventually I won't have to use that tap. My voice will be enough, right? But she has to make that association first, especially when she's in an elevated state of mind. Like I said, when you're focused on that computer, sometimes you need that physical, hey, I'm calling you, right? Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Somebody's calling me. Okay, there we go. So does that make sense though? Yes. But you see how I tap, call a name. She doesn't respond the first time. Now what I do, I give a little bit more energy in that tap, right? So the tap gets a little bit more assertive. Does that make sense? So on a scale of 1 to 10, right, I start at a 1. If she doesn't respond to the 1, then it goes to a 2. If she doesn't respond to the 2, I go to the 3 and I just keep working that scale until she responds. But the reason why that's important is because I don't want to go to a 10 immediately, right? Because then if she doesn't respond, or even worse, if she shuts down because the physical communication was too much for the energy that she was putting out. So it becomes an unfair correction. Does that make sense? So I always want to start with the lowest level and work my way up. That way I have room to work with. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions so far? You good? Okay. Because I know it's a lot of information. That's why I like to record the session so you can always go back and listen to it. So yeah, so now as you can see, right, and this normally happens, after the excitement stage and they can't get to it, then it becomes avoidance, right? So if you notice now, she's like, shucks, I don't put all that energy into trying to get to you guys. I can't get to you. So now I don't even really want it anymore, right? And that's normally how that works, right? Now, once they go into the avoidance stage, we know at some point they're going to go into the calm stage, right? She's not quite calm yet because as you can see, she's still kind of searching around, right? But once she gets to the point where she's kind of just chilling right here, then we can kind of move forward, right? Because what that's telling me is she's submitting to what I'm asking her to do. And if you notice, I haven't even really said much to her. I've only called her name a few times, right? So, and the reason why I'm pointing that out is because sometimes to correct the behavior, it's just a matter of ignoring it, right? Depending on the behavior, right? Now, if she's doing something like the nipping or something like that, we don't ignore that. We have to address that in the moment, right? Because those behaviors, right? Obviously, her teeth hurt. She doesn't necessarily know how much they hurt to us because she's used to teeth being, that's how dogs communicate, right? So she has to understand that putting her mouth to communicate, putting her mouth on you guys to communicate is unacceptable. So certain behaviors we address in a moment, but behaviors like this to where it's just excitement, I don't want to really punish her for that, right? Because I don't want to communicate that being excited is a bad thing. But I do want her to understand that, hey, in order for you to move forward, in order for you to get what you want, you have to give me what I want. What I want is for you to calm down, right? So that's where, I tell people all the time, training is not so cookie cutter like most people think it is, right? There's a lot of discernment in there that where you have to think like, okay, if I'm looking to get a specific behavior, right? And she does another behavior that I doesn't necessarily like, but it's not such a bad behavior to where I have to like punish her, or I don't want to say punish, correct her in the moment. I'll overlook that behavior because I'm focused on the other behavior. Does that make sense? So yeah, so if the one behavior that I want is far more important than the behavior that she's doing that I don't like, I'll just kind of ignore it, right? And then address it down the line once the behavior that I'm really focused on is addressed, right? So now what we're going to do, right? Because it's been a few minutes. She's starting to calm down. We can start moving forward. Now I'm going to start communicating with her verbally more because her brain has slowed down. As you can see, she's not pulling as much to try to get to you guys, right? So now we can communicate better because her brain is open to listen, right? And again, the reason why that's important is because a lot of the time when a dog is in an excited state of mind, we try to verbalize, right? And obviously they don't listen because their senses have funneled into one particular sense, right? So if they see something that they're super interested in, they're doing this, right? They're focused on it. So now all their hearing, smell, and everything else has focused into that one scent, right? So because I know that, like I said, I go to a different form. But now that her brain has slowed down, I know she can hear me better, right? So then I can start asking her to do things like heel. Hey, Una, sit. Good girl. Yes, that's a good girl, right? So you see how she's looking at me? That means she's hearing me, right? And that's a telltale sign. Just like when we speak, we look for eye contact. It's the same thing, right? Typically, if I have her eyes, I have her brain. And that's how I know I can use more words and I don't have to be as physical with the leash or even with my hands if I don't have a leash on, if that makes sense, right? You ready to go? Heel. Good girl. Now what I'm looking for, right? You see how she's going out in front, right? Now she's not excessively bad with it. She's not super pulling me or anything like that. But she still has to understand that I'm leading the escapade, so to speak, right? I'm leading the hunt, right? Because that's essentially what this is. This is a hunt for her. She sees the prey, right? You guys are the prey, right? You're the object that she wants to get to. So now she's going for it, right? But she has to understand that I'm the pack leader, right? And if you guys have ever watched like, yes, good girl. That's a good girl. I'm sorry. Let me just clean my camera real quick. It was a little foggy. There we go. So if you guys have ever watched like National Geographic or anything like right there, you always see the leader in the front, right? And they're the ones that determine which way and how fast and when they want to go, right? Because they have the most experience. So it's the same thing here, right? I never let her determine where, when, how fast we go. I always determine that, right? And the reason why that's important is because, again, that gives me more leverage, right? To where if she sees a squirrel, another dog, or something like that, right? That gives me more leverage to where she understands that, yes, I see it too, right? I know you're excited about it, but we're only going to go to it if I deem fit, right? Look, you got a question?
So
Yeah.
with rewarding,
Yes.
does it necessarily have to be rewarding to give her a treat?
Nope. Not at all. The beautiful thing about her, right? And every dog is a little different. Now, she is very highly food motivated, which we can use to our advantage, right? It's all about leverage. So as you guys saw in the video, I would hand feed her, right? Because the way I look at it is we have to feed the dog anyway, right? So why not use that as a tool to build a relationship with the dog so they can understand what I'm expecting of her, right? But the beautiful thing about her, she loves praise and affection almost as much as she loves food, right? So we can also use that to our advantage. But that also goes back to where I was saying earlier, to where now she cannot get she cannot freely just get praise and affection because she's Una. Does that make sense? Because she's cute, she's a puppy, we can't just give her praise and affection because that actually does more damage than not giving her praise and affection because she gets it at the wrong time and is communicating to her the wrong message, right? So now she has to earn that, right? So again, when I was asking for her attention, she gave it to me. Good girl. Praise and affection, right? I got what I want, you get what you want. As opposed to, again, most of the time, she's doing things that you don't want her to do, and you're saying, oh, come here, it's okay. No, it's not, because that behavior is not okay, right? So when she's doing something we don't want, we have to correct that. When she's doing something we do like, we give her praise and affection, right? So does that answer your question? Yes. So
Just like when to give treats at all, or do you not?
you,
Praise and affection.
so here's what I'll say to treats, right? Treats are a bonus, not the foundation. You see what I mean?
We got that wrong.
Yeah.
Here's a treat.
Here's a treat. Right, right. And that, again, that creates more bad behavior, right? Because she's not associating the reward with any specific kind of behavior. She's just saying, oh, I can do whatever I want and I'm still going to get a treat, right?
Good or bad.
So we're teaching, you guys are teaching her to be disrespectful to you, right? And then, right, when she starts doing the behaviors like the nipping and stuff like that, because she's demanding, right? It's like, well, why are you nipping me? Well, you told her she could, right? You literally told her that she could, right? So, and I know you don't do it on purpose, right? But these are the things where, I try to teach people like, hey, look, if someone came up and slapped you, would you give them $100? Right? You probably wouldn't do that. You'd be like, what the? And you probably slap them back, right? Now, obviously, that's an extreme example, but it's the same thing. It's the same concept. You cannot reward her for doing things you don't like out of empathy, right? And I can tell you where the empathy comes from. It's because you guys rescued her, right? It's every single time I have someone that rescues a dog because we felt sorry for what the dog went through before. We give too much empathy. But we have to understand that dogs, she has no clue about what happened before you guys got her. She doesn't remember it. She has no concept of it, right? Like literally none, right? Now, what happens with dogs is not Like us, we can remember a specific situation that made us scared about something, right? That make us apprehensive about experiencing that thing again, right? They don't remember specific situations, right? They don't remember that it was the one person that did that one specific thing that makes them scared going forward. What happens is they develop behaviors around consistent things that happen, right? So, for an example, uh, if she doesn't like being in cages, right? It's because probably, and I'm not saying that's her, I'm just giving an example, right? Typically, what happens is multiple situations of something bad happening with her being in a cage. Now she's associating that cage with whatever bad that happened. But it takes like multiple times for them to associate that behavior with it, right? So now what we have to do is the reverse psychology. We have to associate the cage with something good, right? So every time she goes in the cage, you give her a treat, right? I like to use food because I have to feed the dog anyway. So then it also creates more value in her food, because what can happen over time is if you give too much treats, she'll lose value in the food. Then she's only going to want the treat. I'm not saying that will happen, but it can happen. I've seen it happen before. So the reason why I like to use food is because, again, I have to feed the dog anyway. So why not use the food in the same manner that I would use the treat? And you guys save money because you don't have to buy all those treats, right? She would look at the food as just as valuable as the treats. Yeah. Yep. So does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Cool beans. So she's doing pretty good. Let's go ahead and move forward. So now what I'm going to ask her to do, right? As I'm walking in the door, again, I'm not going to allow her just to walk in under her own autonomy, right? I'm going to ask her to do things before we go in the door so that way she respects that threshold, right? All right. Una, come. Right here. Una. Yes, good girl. Come on. Right here. Yes, good girl. There we go. Una, come. 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 Yes, good girl. There we go. Sit. Yes, good girl. Sit. Yes, good girl. Sit. Yes. Come. All right. So, and I'll close this. You got, okay, yeah, no problem. All right. It always smells so good in here. All right, good. So now you can see we're inside. She's excited again, right? So remember how I said dogs don't really remember, like they have terrible memory, right? Is they have, and I don't know the correct term for it, right? They have, it's not that they have terrible memory, it's that they don't really have the ability to compartmentalize their memories like we do, right? So basically what just happened, everything that we did, don't want to knock that down. Everything we just did out there, right, is like a different day, right? So literally from outside to in here, outside was yesterday for her, right? Because dogs they live in the moment, right? And this is where we get the term reactive, right? I'm not sure if you guys have heard that term before. So, when you get dogs that, like her, when she sees a strange person, she barks, right? They call that reactivity. The dog is being reactive to the thing that is the stimulus, right? And we look at that as a bad thing because we're looking at it from a human's perspective, because typically the things that they're being reactive to is an inconvenience for us, right? So we call it reactivity, right? But in reality, she's being a dog, right? And what that means is dogs have to be reactive because that's how they survive in nature, right? In nature, again, if they spent so much time thinking about the rabbit they missed 10 minutes ago, and it's 10 rabbits in front of them, right? If they didn't have that reactivity to react to what's in front of them, they would starve to death, right? So again, another form of reactivity. In nature, right? Running away from humans is survival,
Yeah.
right? For like a wild dog or a feral dog, right? Because humans represent danger, right? So if you look at coyotes, if you look at wolves, if you look at most wild animals, humans represent danger. So they typically run away from humans, right? So when a dog is reactive to something, it's their nature saying, hey, that looks a little strange. Let me get away from it, right? So the challenge is when you have a dog that's hyper reactive, right? They're scared of everything, right? That's where it's like, okay, we have to kind of balance this out, right? So her just now coming into the house, she's being reactive to the new atmosphere, right? And then also because she has, how long did you guys have her before she came?
Almost a month.
Almost a month, right? So yeah, that's a good amount of time for her to develop behaviors that are associated with the sound of you guys' voice, with the smell of the house, with the organization of the house, the items in the house, right? All of these things is what helps her associate behaviors to the environment, not necessarily remember a specific situation. Does that make sense? So it's more about association than it is remembering a specific thing with dogs, right? Because dogs are very, they're, what's the word I'm looking for? They're habitual creatures like we are, right? You know, we develop habits and we tend to stick to those particular things for the most part, right? But we're able to adjust much faster than they can, right? Because we just have the ability to compartmentalize, you know, at a much higher rate than they do, right? So that's why when we talk about reactivity in a dog, is not necessarily that being reactive is a bad thing, right? It's their nature. We just have to be able to communicate with them that, hey, you don't have to be like this right now. I don't require this of you right now, right? So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Cool beans. Any questions? Because I know I'll be giving a lot of. No. Good girl. Come here. Yes. Sit.
So
Yes.
when it comes to feeding, do we like the way you were doing it
Mm-hmm.
past 2 weeks, or do we go back to like 3 times a day?
So again, leverage, right? I always look at it like if she sees that the food comes directly from my hand, then my hand has a whole lot more value, right? So, which means now, right, I can utilize that in communicating with her, right? So, one of the things that we're working on, right? Hey, Una, come, right? So, when she sees my hand, right, it creates more value to make her want to come to your hand, right? Because it represents something good, right? So, to answer your question, I would say yes, continue with the hand feedings, doing the exact exercises that I was doing in the videos, right? And over time, you won't necessarily have to do it. It's always fun to do, right? Because it just creates a better bond with you and your dog, right? It's literally like being a wolf and eating the kill together, right? It's like that same, it creates that same endorphin rush, you know, with the dog, right? So it's always something good to do, but once they understand what you're asking of them and what's expected, you don't necessarily have to do it, right? So yeah, for her, because she's still learning, remember it's only been 2 weeks, you know, so my goal was to put a solid enough foundation, right, to where she understands what is being asked of her, and then for you guys to continue with that. Because if you stop, trust me, all of that'll go right away. Like, and it won't take long. It'll probably take about a week. Yeah, it doesn't take long. It doesn't take long at all. Yeah. So yeah, for sure. And that's why the videos are so powerful, because you can always go back to it like, oh, what did he do? and you can just do and duplicate it. And then that WhatsApp group doesn't go anywhere as long as you guys don't delete the app off your phone. You can always reach out to me. You can always call me, send a message, ask, hey, she's doing this, or, what do I do in this situation? And then also, you guys have 3 follow-up sessions, right? So what I typically tell people is, one, for the first week to 2 weeks, kind of depending on, the situation, keep the leash on her in the house.
Oh, in the house.
In the house, yes. And this is a perfect leash to do it because it's super long, right? Una, right here, Una, come. Yes, right here. Yes, good girl. Yes, good girl. That's a good girl. Yes, that's a good girl, right? So you see how that worked? She gave me attention. She thought about going back. I said, come back to me, right? And then she gave me her attention. I gave her affection, right? So that's the perfect example of correction when she's doing something I don't like,
Yeah.
praise and affection when she's doing something that I want, right? So yeah. So yes, the reason why I say keep the leash on her in the house is because this allows her to fail in a controlled environment, right? So obviously within these 4 walls, she can't escape, right? But if you don't have the leash on her, she run all over the place, right? And then it becomes frustration because now it's like you're chasing her, right? I'm sure it looks like you guys have experienced that before. Yeah, well, trust me, I did too, right? When she first came, because that's what she was used to doing, right? She thought running away, right, when we wanted her to come to was, oh, it's time to have fun. No, I need you to come to me, right? And I always like to give extreme examples to make it real for people, right? If we're out in the street and it just so happened, because she's still a dog, she's still, even when she's trained, she's still going to do things, right? Just like humans do. We mess up. We know what's the best thing to do. And sometimes we still make the wrong decision, right? She's still going to do that, right? Because she's a living, breathing being. She has her own brain to make decisions, right? We're just negotiating with her saying, hey, it's probably better if you do this because the reward if you do this is much greater than the correction if you do the other thing, right? But sometimes that impulse is going to take over and she's going to take the chance like, I know the treat is over there, but I want to do this, right? So in situations like that, let's say the door is open and you guys aren't paying attention, right? And we've trained her on, hey, even when that door is open doesn't mean you have permission to go out, but a squirrel runs by. And remember, dogs are reactive, right? Boom, she goes, right? She's outside, squirrel is gone, but she's just outside frolicking around now, right? So now, as opposed to before where she thought when you call her name, it means run away, go play. Now, when you call her name, and again, she's not perfect at it yet, she's still learning, right? But that's where the leash comes in. Now, when you call her name, that means come, right? So that's where the leash comes in because now in the house, you have to chase her, right? If you call her name and she doesn't come, you got, what's this, about 10 feet,
10 feet. Yeah.
right? Okay, no worries. I'm not going to chase you. I'm just going to pick up this leash, assertive tap on the shoulder, right? The same thing we did outside. And once she makes that connection, good girl, right? So we don't get upset, right? And that's what typically happens because we're upset. Like, why aren't you coming to me? Well, it's because we haven't taught her to. She's not going to do anything that we haven't taught her to do. You see what I mean? So, exactly. She's still a puppy, right? No different than children, right? She's going to have puppy brain, right? So we have to kind of give her some grace, right? But still set the rules, boundaries, and limitations so she understands that there is structure and there is expectation, right? So perfect example. She's getting excited again. Una. Yes, good girl. That's a good girl, right? That's a good girl. So that's how you do it, right? And as you see, she loves praise and affection. So you don't necessarily need treats. Treats is a bonus. It's not the base or the foundation, right? Yeah, good girl. Yes, that's a good girl. Yeah.
Too much
treats.
Yeah.
no, too much videos on Instagram.
Yeah. So
Giving treats every
yeah.
single time.
Yeah. It's so here's the thing, right? And it's the popular thing because we all know that marketing, right, is something that is used to get us emotionally involved, right?
Yeah.
So the way that they market force-free training, positive only training, right? It sounds good,
Yeah.
right? It makes us feel good because it makes us feel like, hey, if the dog is always happy, then I'm going to always be happy. As you can see, when she's happy, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm happy
Yeah.
because she could be happy doing the wrong thing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then if I'm constantly trying to make her happy and I'm not telling her that, hey, I don't like this behavior. This is not conducive to us being in a cordial atmosphere, right? To where, hey, you get to be happy, I get to happy, we get to live together for the next 15 years happy, right?
No problem.
But if I'm constantly feeding you to make you happy, then I'm taking away from my happiness. I'm becoming more stressful, right? So the challenge with that you see on the internet, right, is they don't give you the other side of it. They only give you what looks good. They only give you the highlights, right? They don't give you the real behind the scene of, hey, I'm not going to give this dog a treat if it's biting me. Why would I do that? You see what I'm saying?
And I noticed it's like most of the dogs that they use for examples, like they already established a
Yeah.
solid foundation.
Yeah.
So they already
They're
know.
already trained.
Absolutely.
They know, yeah, exactly. They already know what this guy in the video is
Absolutely.
doing.
Absolutely.
So like, oh, it's easy.
It looks good.
Yeah.
It looks good.
That makes
And
sense, yeah.
then you also have to consider the kind of dog, right? Most of the time, and correct me if I'm wrong, most of the time it's going to be, and it's specific breeds, but it's going to be a dog that is super highly motivated for toys and treats. Every dog isn't like that. And then even like in her situation, she is super food motivated, right? But again, food motivation coupled with fear anxiety, right? Even though she may look happy taking the treat, if she's put into a situation where her fear is greater than her want to get the food, there's not a treat in the world that's going to fix that. You see, and these are the things that they're not telling you, right? Every dog, especially if you're dealing with a dog with fear anxiety, every dog has a threshold, right? And if you reach that threshold with her to where you're dealing with something to where she's scared of something, right? And you're trying to give her a treat and she's not taking it, then what? What do? They never talk about that, right? They only show you the part where the dog is happy to take the treat. They only show you where the dog is in a controlled environment. Remember, I was talking about failing in a controlled environment? Well, what about the environment that you can't control, right? What about the loud truck on the street that you can't stop and she's just scared of it? She's trying to run away. If she didn't have a leash on, she would be gone. There's no treat in the world you can give her for that, right? The only remedy for that is this leash and how calm you are. And basically what that means is, oh, you're scared of that? It's okay. It's not going to hurt you. We're going to sit here until you figure out that it's not going to hurt you. I'm not going to say anything to you, right? I'm not even going to try to pull you towards the thing. All I'm going to do is stop you from running away from it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It sounds the same, but it's different, right? I'm not going to force you to go to the thing just yet because I know your stress levels are so high, right? It would be unfair for me to pull you to the thing that you're scared of.
Yeah.
But what I am not going to allow you to do is run away from it. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit here like a tree and this leash is tied to me because if I was a tree, the tree wouldn't talk to you. You would just have to sit here until you figure out that, hey, that truck is not going to hurt you. And eventually they figure it out. right? So that's how you correct fearful behavior. You just make them sit in it until they figure out, like, oh, we've been here for 5 minutes. It didn't kill me yet. Maybe it's not so bad. You see what I'm saying? And then once they kind of calm down, like similar to outside, because anxiety and excitement, the result of it is very similar, right? Their brain just shuts down, right? The manifestation of it, you can see when they're excited because their tail is wagging, right? But their brain is still off because they just want to focus on getting to the thing that they want. When they're scared, their brain is off. The difference is they're trying to get away from the thing. You see, it's the same thing though. So how we fix that is, oh, you're excited? Okay, we sit here till you calm down. Oh, you're scared? We sit here until you calm down. And then we can have a conversation about what's going on, right? But they have to get over that initial phase of reactivity in order to have the conversation. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, so again, a lot of information.
Yeah.
Any questions?
That's a lot.
Yeah, but see, that's why I try to tell people training is not cookie cutter. Most people look at training because they see the videos and they see the dog sitting, they see the dog laying, and it's like, oh, I see the dog doing those mechanical things, right? Because those are mechanical things. It's easy to teach a dog to sit down because it's mechanical. But it's the psychology that people don't understand. Why is the dog doing those things? What is the dog thinking when you're asking it to sit? Is it happy to sit? Is it sad to sit? Right? And based on, and you can tell when a dog is sad, because if you tell it to sit and it cowers and does it, then you can tell that the person used a lot of force to make the dog do it. Right? Now, there is an element of force in training, right? There is an element of it because the truth of the matter is I have this leash on. That's force. You see what I'm saying? I have a collar on. That's force, right? Now, it's controlled, but it's a low level of force, right? So then obviously you have levels of everything, right? So there's always going to be a level of force. And this is why we go back to the conversation of the treats, right? In the positive only or the force-free only mindset, it's like we totally allow the dog to make their own decisions. No, you don't, because you have a leash on that dog. You have a collar on that dog. You're not going to allow this dog to just freely go out in the street and get hit by a car. So if you're out in the street and the dog is pulling you, you're forcing the dog to stay with you. You see what I'm saying? So they try to market it as we don't force the dog to do anything. Yes, you do. You have to. Because the dog is your responsibility. You see what I'm saying? So that's why, I kept talking about discernment, right? Una, yes, good girl. That's a good girl. Yes. So does that make sense though? Yeah. So that's why I said the leash is very powerful because it just allows you to have leverage to where it helps you take your emotions out of it. You don't take her behaviors personal, right? So, and again, that's why if you notice, I've said very little words to her, right? Very little, because words are for us.
They don't understand
They don't
everything.
speak English.
They don't, right? We associate behaviors to the words like sit, come, right? But we don't really have verbal conversations with dogs, right? Dogs communicate through sight primarily, right? Obviously, we use verbal, but primarily sight, smell, touch, right? Hearing as well, right? But primarily, they're reading your body language, right? They're literally smelling your hormones, right? Think about it. If we can use these dogs to smell cancer and bed bugs, what are they smelling? They're smelling pheromones, right? They literally, when they greet other dogs, what do they normally do? They smelling each other butt, right? They smelling each other butt. What are they smelling? What is this dog about? Is this dog confident? Is this dog a female or a male? Right? They're smelling pheromones. So when our stress levels go up, guess what go up? Cortisol. They can smell it. It's a stress hormone, right? So then when we get stressful, they get stressful.
Oh,
You see, so they can
smell it, yeah.
They can still.
they can smell it and they can see it. Our body language change. We get tense,
Yeah.
right? Even if we don't feel it, they can see it. So that's why, if you notice the entire time, I'm almost acting like she's not even here, right? Especially when she's getting like this. Now, when it gets excessive, I might, hey, Una, I might reel it back in, right? When it gets excessive. But if it's like low level, okay, I'll ignore that until it gets excessive.
Yeah.
Because again, I understand she's a puppy, right? And I don't want to punish her for being excited.
Yeah.
I just want her to understand you have to be under control, right? You see yourself?
There you go.
Has she ever done that before?
She's done that before.
Yeah.
Not in this mirror, but there's another one.
Oh, it's another one? Okay, yeah.
Like, she knows there's a mirror there.
Okay.
This is the first.
Yeah. So any questions?
Yeah, like say from the basic training that we have, what do you think would be the next level of training for her to reach her potential?
So the next level is off leash.
Off leash.
Off leash, right? That's why I said keep the leash on her in the beginning until you know you have control over her brain. Because you have to be able to physically control her to make sure you can reel her brain back in, right? So right now, focus on, I was just about to drop the leash because I thought she's not quite ready yet. I'm just waiting on that moment where she just kind of totally calms down. But yeah, so the first, give yourself at least 2 weeks to one, create, because remember, okay, I'm trying not to give so much information, but I still want to give you guys enough. No, it's okay. It's okay. I appreciate it. I put it to you like this, right? Don't try to be perfect, right? Understand that you're going to mess up. That's okay. I mess up. I'm a trainer. Only difference is I know when I mess up and I can fix it. Whereas opposed to most people don't know when they're messing up and they keep doing the wrong thing, right? So give yourself time to learn, right? Because remember, you guys are in training just like she is.
Yeah.
And even more important, you have to be different in order for her to be different. If you're the same, she's going to be the same, right? So now what you guys have to focus on, and this is why I say take the next week to 2 weeks, is creating the new, I'm not going to say the address, of course, but creating the new house, right? So she can understand what it is you guys are expecting of her, right? So that's really what, hey, no. Right? So that hey was literally the equivalent of me tapping on the leash,
Yeah.
right? It's the same concept. So all that hey does is breaks her,
Attention.
yes, right? And if you notice, my hey is hey, right? It's literally like saying stop,
Yeah.
right? It just breaks that hyper focus. And if you notice when she looks at me, hey, good girl, thank you, right? Or I say sit, whatever it is. So again, that is the same concept as that tap on the leash, right? So yeah. But yeah, you guys have to be different in order for her to be different, right? And the easiest way I can say, the easiest, I guess, advice that I can give you is everything that she does is because you allow her to do it. Everything that she doesn't do is because you don't want her to do it. She does not have the autonomy to do anything on her own, whether it's get on the couch, whether it's go in the kitchen, right? Anything. She has to be invited, right? And the reason why I want you guys to be so meticulous, like even going into the next room, if you guys are here, right? Just because you get up and go in the next room doesn't mean you want her to do it, right? So now you have to become hyper aware, knowing that typically if you get up and go, she's probably going to follow you, right? So now what you have to do, knowing that she's probably going to do that, you have to break that habit in her. And let's say we're going into that room, right? Now there's no physical barrier, right? It doesn't have to be. Dogs are very spatially aware, right? So if if I know my goal is to get into the kitchen, but I want her to stay here, right? I'm not going to say anything to her. I'm just going to get up and start walking. As soon as she starts following me, I'm going to turn around and say, hey, nope, sit, right? Wait for her to sit. Then I'm going to start walking again, knowing she's probably going to get up again, right? So I'm prepared to turn around and say, hey, no, sit, right? So you probably have to do that 2 or 3 times before she understands, like, oh, they don't want me to follow. And then you're looking for that moment where she sits and you're able to walk away and she doesn't follow.
What if she keeps just coming towards you? She's not gonna leave.
You got to be more determined and diligent than she is, right? Because remember,
A lot of training. Okay.
that's what training is, right?
Okay.
And that's what people don't.
Ready for that?
Yeah, but that's what people don't understand, right? Because they see so many highlight reels,
Yeah.
they think like, oh, they never think like, how long did it take for you to get that dog to do that?
And then when we actually try to do it, we get frustrated. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work, right? Because again, hey, yes, good girl. Training is about teaching, right? We have to teach it first, right? Then we can test it, right? So you teach. Oh man, that's why I knew she had to do it. You teach, right? You test, then you train some more,
Yeah.
right?
So you said train on leash.
Mhm.
How many hours do you keep her on a leash? Because,
Well-
obviously we can't be walking around with her on the leash inside the home.
No, you don't have to hold her on the leash. You just let her,
Oh, I
yeah,
see.
you just keep the leash on her in the house, right? So that way you have easier access to her. Right. Does that make sense? Yeah, so you don't have to hold the leash the entire time.
Okay.
Yeah, you still kind of give her free range, so to speak. But this is literally for you to be able to have immediate access to her without having to chase her.
I see.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Any other questions?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah, give yourself. I say at least a week, right? But I know normally. Come here. I know normally it takes about 2 weeks for you guys to recalibrate your brain, right? And figure out, okay, what is it that I want out of her, right? That's the first thing that you have to figure out is what is it that you guys want, right? And then once you figure out, and I'm telling you, that's down to the smallest detail of if you don't want her on the couch, right? Then set that standard. Now, there's nothing wrong with her getting on the couch, but is she getting on the couch when she wants to or when you want her to, right? So if she's, and I'm just kind of using this because this is like a general thing that happens in the house, right? If she's used to just jumping on the couch when she wants to, hey, no, put her off, right? She's probably going to try a couple of more times. Once she gets that, oh, they don't want me on the couch right now. Once you see that she understands that I can't just jump on the couch when I want to, then you invite her on the couch. You see the difference?
Yeah.
So everything that she does is because you allowed her to do it. Whether you wanted her to do it or not, you allowed her to do it. So now everything for her has to be an invitation, just like the door, right? When I came in the door, I didn't allow her just to pull me in the door. I went in the door and then I invited her in, right? Same way going through here. I don't want you to follow me, right? I want to go in the kitchen and do what I need to do. I need you to stay in here. If I want you to come to me, I'll call you, right? So it has to be that meticulous.
Okay.
And then eventually you'll get to the point where you don't have to be, but you have to set that in the beginning, right?
Do we keep her in her
You can,
at night?
for sure. Is that where you normally keep her at night?
Yeah.
I mean, for the past month we've had her. We keep her in
We
the
keep her in her.
Yeah, for sure.
this crate. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Oh, it's another crate? Oh, okay.
play pan, yeah, it's like this.
Okay. Yeah, you can actually create So what you can do, you could take that playpen and put it around the crate, right? So you don't necessarily have to close the crate. Again, it's kind of up to you guys how you want to do that, right? Normally, I keep dogs in the crate. And the main reason why I do is because I have multiple dogs. So, I can't have them just get out and an accident happen or something like that. So it's more so for safety reasons, but the crate is the best thing in the world because again, it gives you leverage, right? It gives you leverage to where she can't just freely get into stuff that we don't want her to get into.
So when we take her out of the playpen, we put a leash on her.
Yes. Yes. That way she can't chew it up, in the cage.
So how do we start with the potty training?
Oh, the potty training.
We don't want her to.
Yeah, and that's why I kept kind of pulling her to me because I could tell I'm like she might have to use the bathroom, but that was our fault because we should have took her out. But the timing of it is, and this is my timing, right? Typically between 6 and 7 o'clock is when she's going out, to use the bathroom, right? So she goes out, uses the bathroom, get that initial, pee or poop or whatever she has to do from the night, from being in the cage or the kennel overnight. Then she comes back in. We typically do training. So the hand feeding, we do the training. Then she goes back outside for free time with the other pups. As you guys saw in the video, she plays with the other puppies and stuff like that. And because of how, because I'm a trainer and I'm dealing with other dogs, they're typically outside for a good portion of the day. Because I have that covered carport. So, they're able to be outside. But that's really more so free time, not necessarily for them to use the bathroom. That's just for them social time, be outside, so they don't have to be in the cage, right? But once you take her outside initially, bring her back in, do your feeding session, right? You do want to give her a chance to go back outside to use the bathroom, especially if you've given her water. You want her to get that pee out. Then normally that second time can be a nice walk. So that is her time to kind of go out, just kind of be free and express her, whatever, be a puppy, right? Bring her back in, nap time, right? Put her in the cage, nap time, right? And however long you want that to be, depending on your schedule, you can kind of set that standard, right? Now, she's going to have to adjust to that because, again, with me, it was a little different, right? But so that's why I said give yourself 2 weeks to really figure out that schedule that works for you guys. But typically how mine works, 6 to 7 o'clock, she goes outside to use the bathroom, comes back in, we feed, train, goes back outside.
Is there like a way, like where we can, if we don't have time to take her out, bring her back in, is there like a way where like she can pee in one area?
For sure. You got pee pads?
We got pee pads.
Absolutely.
How do you get her, like how do you get her started to like let her?
So,
Oh,
excuse me.
Where you should pee only if you can't go outside yet.
You take that playpen and you create a section to where she only has her kennel. Excuse me. And no, I'm good. I appreciate it. Thank you. She only has the kennel and enough space in the playpen to where the pee pad can fit. Excuse me. So what that does, keep calling me. So what that does is a dog typically doesn't want to use the bathroom where they have to lay down, right? So she will make the association like I don't want to use the bathroom inside the kennel because that's where I lay, right? So the only other space I can use the bathroom is on this pad. So, and she will make that association, right? So that's how you train the pee pad training. Again, you only give them enough space to make the decision. Ultimately, you're almost making them believe they are making decisions when you are really
Setting it up.
exactly. You're putting them in a situation to where the only thing they can do is succeed, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's how you set that up.
One of our friends, what she does was like, she would take the old pee pad that her dog used. She would
Hey,
like
nope.
trying to like dab on the new one. Just
You can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because they, again, scent. They associate that pad with the scent. So yes, you can do that as well. Absolutely. Yep. You can do that as well. Yep. So yeah, so I'm going to hand you guys the leash. And all I want you guys to do today, right, is focus on your communication with her, right? So like for an example, she's kind of pulling away, right? So let's try the assertive tap on the shoulder, right? So you tap the leash and say her name.
Una.
Yes, and now she's coming, so tap the leash again,
Una.
right? Good. Okay, so now the difference is, right, you kind of pulled her to you, right? Which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? But what I want you guys to focus on is, again, she has no choice at some point but to come to you because you have the leash, right? Focus on the tap and looking for her to make that eye contact, right? Right?
Una.
There you go. Good girl. Now invite her in. There you go. Right? So once you see that eye contact, hand. Because remember that hand represents come to me. Right? So once you see that eye contact, Una, come. Right? And invite her in almost like a airplane runway. You know, they have the what do they call it, guys? Yeah, I'm waving you in. Come on in. You see what I mean? Yeah. So, yeah. So today, really, that's all I want you guys to focus on. Just that. Because if you get that, everything else is easier, right? So yeah. And then once you kind of get comfortable with that, say, hey, I think we got this. What's next? Right? And then we'll just keep going from there. And then, based on where you guys are, again, you have those 3 follow-up sessions. So we can figure out, when you want to schedule those. Yeah. All right, folks. I have our stuff in the car. Let me go grab our stuff and bring it in. And then, we'll be good to go.
You wanna try it?
Yeah. No problem. I'll be right back. All right, folks. That's how you train people to train a dog, man. That's how we do it. It's a lot of information, man, that people don't take into consideration when you're training dogs. It's a lot of information that people don't take into consideration when you are training dogs, man. A lot of psychology involved, but I love helping people that want to help themselves. So reach out to me if you need some help. Till the next video, peace.